And a good Tuesday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Olentangy High School for Week 10 of the high school football season. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, and our host to begin the show is Coach Mark Solis of the Olentangy Braves. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you very much.
I won't stumble as much as I did here in the next few minutes when we're talking to Coach, but 5-4 overall. You're 2-2 in the league, and you've got a big game coming up here on Friday night against Westerville Central. Right now, what are you, 6th in Region 7, Division 2 Region 7. How do you like how things have developed here? Even with the tough schedule that you play, you're in the position you want to be in, and that's hopefully to play Week 11 here.
Yeah, we're Division 2 Region 7. Last year we were in that Southwest region, and they moved us up here to the Northwest. So, yeah, we're going into Week 10, and we feel like we've left some things out there throughout the season, but our schedule's been tough. It's kind of seasoned us for a game like this, so to speak. We played very competitive schedule. A couple plays here and there, we could easily be 6-2 right now, or 7-2, I should say. But our record is what it is, and we have a chance to push us out to 6-4. Maybe improve our seeding in our region, give us a outside chance of hosting our first round game, and then be one of 8 in Region 7 and compete for the Region 7 championship.
I believe you guys have made 5 consecutive playoff appearances.
Yes, sir.
What's kind of your thoughts about the state of this program right now? I mean, you happy with the direction this program's headed right now?
I am. We kind of took a little bit on the chin last year with the opening of Berlin. We lost 35 players, and so it's really for us, kind of rebuilding the program. Our numbers are down a little bit in the lower grades, but we have a great 7th and 8th grade class coming up. We're going to recruit our always. But yeah, I do like where we're at. We have a lot of returning starters back next year, a lot of juniors that we're playing this year, and our kids understand the tradition here, the types of players that have come through this program, the Joshua Perrys, the Zach Carings of the world, the Kenny Ananikis of the world. We've had a lot of really good football players come through here, so we've been in the playoffs. Probably now will be our 6th year in a row, and that's kind of the standard here. Our kids understand what the expectations are year in and year out.
You talked about the lineage that's come through, and certainly you've had a pretty good quarterback lineage since you've been here.
Yeah.
Trent Maddox, your guy, he's been atop the area standings, statistics quite a bit this year. What's gone so well for him? And he's got a pretty nice group of receivers as well to work with.
Well, I think first of all it starts with up front. You got to have guys. The game of football really is simple at all levels. If you don't have the guys up front doing their job, doing a great job in pass protection, you're going to struggle. They've done a great job, those guys first. Secondly, he has some weapons. When you got some 6'4", 6'5" guys that throw the ball to, that helps. He's matured, he's smart, he loves football. He's a film guy. He works at his craft, and as a result, he's had a lot of success throwing the football for us. He makes great decisions, and I still think, honestly, his best football is in front of him at the collegiate level, and hopefully we're going to find a good place for him to play, continue his playing career after he graduates from here.
Well, you guys are 5-4, Westerville Central 6-3 heading into this matchup.
Yeah.
What's some of your thoughts about this matchup coming up Friday?
Well, they're very athletic. They got guys all over the place. Obviously Ricky Hyatt's, the Williamson kid, the quarterback, Holtzclaw. They've got guys all over the place. Healy, the linebacker, number 34. 72 stands out on tape. Number 5, defensive end. They got guys all over the place. Very aggressive, explosive guys on offense. They can make explosive plays. So we got to do a tremendous job controlling the line of scrimmage. We got to limit the big plays. They're going to make some plays, and our kids understand that. We got to go to the next play and just limit the number of those. We got to do a great job tackling. I think teams have gotten in trouble when you miss tackles on defense against them, and they can take little 5-yard gains and instantly make them 70 through a missed tackle. So we got to execute. We got to, it's our senior night. It's going to be very emotional. We have some traditions at night, but I expect our kids to come out ready to play.
All right, Coach, we will let you get back to work preparing for the Warhawks. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
All right, it's Olentangy Coach Mark Solis. We will have that game covered on Friday night. Frank Dorena will be here as the Braves at 5-4, host the 6-3 Westerville Central Warhawks. I'm not sure I thought we'd be saying this through 5 weeks, but this is a must-win for Westerville Central.
Yeah.
They've got to win, and they've got to get some help from teams in front of them to jump back into the top 8 in Region 3.
They've lost 3 out of 4, and part of that is the OCC Buckeye. It's a really good league this year, and they've kind of struggled against some of those teams, and coming off a really, really tough loss last week. So, and of course, Olentangy is, I believe they've won 3 in a row.
Well, they did drop a couple games to Liberty and but then they bounced back nicely.
That's right.
Against Westerville North last week. I mean, but in Coach Solis and I were talking even before we went on film here that they've had a heck of a schedule, and he feels good comparing what they've been able to do against anybody in this Region 7, whoever they end up facing, because they're so battle tested. Because of this league, they played Dublin Kaufman in the non-league. They played Hilliard Darby, who could be a playoff team in their non-league schedule. So it's kind of the MO up here. Take your chances and take your lumps during the regular season and see what happens.
Which Central team will we see this week? The one that was finishing games and scoring lots and lots of points early in the season. I mean, I would expect this to be a pretty high-scoring game. I mean, just the history of both these teams this year. Both been scoring, both have pretty explosive offenses.
And we'll see what happens here. Olentangy, as we said, is 6th in Region 7. At this point, it looks likely that they're going to be heading about 2 hours north up toward the Toledo area to play maybe White House Anthony Wayne. There's also a chance they might stay right here and maybe face Westerville South in the first round. That could be how it shapes up. But, I mean, in an OCC Buckeye game, Olentangy beat them back South was coming off that really injury-riddled game that you saw against Reynoldsburg. But we'll see what happens in the playoffs. We're going to find out, Friday night and Saturday. And boy, every game we talk about this week is going to have some kind of playoff implications for both. And in about 51 hours or a little less, you've got, this might be the best Thursday night game of the year. There have been some good ones. I have a tough time thinking this isn't going to be the best one. DeSales and Hartley for the CCL Championship. What a way to get Week 10 started this year.
Well, one thing about this matchup that makes it maybe a little more special even than the last couple of years is DeSales has kind of stepped their game up really this year. I mean, they're coming off 5-5 season last year where they had just a lot of things go wrong, and they've kind of returned to the greatness maybe of what they've experienced for a lot of the time that they've been around. And they didn't do it with the same kind of formula. They've done it with some adjustments. I mean, they've looked at what their own personnel is, especially on defense, and they've made some changes to their defense this year because they know they're facing a lot of shotgun offenses, although that's not what Hartley's going to bring, obviously. And then and then offensively, they have one of the area's best running backs in Quintel Quinn.
Had another huge game last week against Steubenville. I want to say it was north of 200 yards in that win. I mean, and that was a tight game for a while. DeSales made some big plays in the second half. I think Quinn broke about a 67-yard run, I want to say, late in that game to break it open against the Big Red. They are currently 4th in Region 8, so they're going to be in. And the Region 8 is where most of the area teams reside. Hartley is comfortably in Region 11. They could get the first seed. They're holding out. If they win, they're going to.
Even if they lose, they might still get it.
Well, yeah, and Jonathan Alder's kind of breathing down their neck for it.
Yeah,
and,
they are.
We'll see how that shapes up. Hartley has won 3 of the last 5 games. Now, I don't want to let this get by before we move to our next game. I love the quote in your preview from Brad Birchfield. We work on DeSales all year round. I mean, and does that not remind us of the approach that we see from our local Scarlet and Gray team, where they kind of keep the rivalry in mind all year round? That's what that kind of reminded me of. There's always that little thought, hey, it's going to be an important game, and obviously this week it is.
You got to know who your main, that's part of their main goals every year is winning the CCL. Since they've returned to the one division format a few years ago, winning the CCL means very much to Hartley, and that's something that they talk about a lot.
Outright championships will be on the line in the next couple of games we talk about, if not more. This one, I will be there on Friday night with Groveport at 8-1 overall, 4-0 in the OCC Capital Division, traveling to New Albany. New Albany is 6-3 and 3-1. This is a must-win for them in the respects that if they win, they'll achieve some of their goals. Maybe they'll earn a split of the OCC Capital, and they might get into the playoffs. They're part of that tight Region 3 picture at this point. They're about 3 points behind 8th place Upper Arlington, who we're going to discuss momentarily. They're just behind Westerville Central and about 2 points behind Hilliard Darby. There aren't going to be too many passes in this game, for sure. I mean, it's going to be an interesting 2 wing T teams going at it here.
No, and Groveport is obviously playing very well. And it's great to see for them as a program, just to see this program emerge this year. As far as New Albany, actually, if you think about it, some of the things that need to happen for them, they're kind of plausible. If you think about it. Now, that doesn't mean that the points are going to work out for them, because they need some of the teams that they've beaten to also get wins, and that's you don't want to be in that position, but
the points that could get the teams that could get them the most points. Canal beat them, and so that wouldn't work. I mean, obviously you've got a couple others in there as well, but yeah, I mean, then you've got to hope for, say, UA to lose to Kaufman. We'll talk about that game momentarily. Darby to lose to Scioto, and Westerville Central to lose on this field here, which is also possible.
Reynoldsburg plays Lancaster. That's probably not very plausible. I mean, you know, because Reynoldsburg is going to be in this, and we're not really actually going to talk about that game very much, but Reynoldsburg is probably going to make it if they can win. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to forget as well, Groveport already has clinched a share of its first league championship since 1982.
Yeah, okay.
The first one. Yeah, absolutely. Right. 37 years since they have won the league. We mentioned Dublin Kaufman and Upper Arlington. That's next on the slate here. If the Golden Bears win, they win the OCC Central outright. If Kaufman wins and Hilliard-Davidson wins, those three teams will all share the league championship. If UA wins, you got to like their chances to stay in, although, I mean, who knows what could happen behind them at this point. If they lose, it could be tough for them to get into the playoffs, but this is a Kaufman team they haven't beaten since 2012. But as UA is showing, this year is different. They beat Davidson, and if they beat Kaufman, that'll be two teams they'd lost at 11 in a row against prior to this year.
Excuse me, I did have one coach, I'm not going to reveal who it is, but a coach that's played one of the toughest schedules in Central Ohio this year, including playing Kaufman. And he told me that he feels like Kaufman might be like the best team from top to bottom that they've played this year. If that says anything.
Well, look at the depth that they've got.
Yeah.
I mean, even, when I saw them win on this field a month ago, Brian Threats had a huge game. Musa Diallo, Mike Drennan was still working his way back from the injury. But they just have guys, and I know we've mentioned this about Olentangy Liberty, kind of the next man up thing, that you can plug guys in. So I'm not surprised to hear that this coach would say that. And you got to think that they've got a chance to put together a nice run through Region 2 coming.
Just so many options. When you've got a program like Kaufman, so much depth, and that's, I don't know that this year's been any more injury riddled than past seasons, but it just seems like a lot of teams have had some major injuries this year, and a team like Kaufman that's got depth that's going to help them in a year like this.
And a year that a team that has stayed away from that has been UA. They really haven't had those kinds of injuries like they had last year to a starting quarterback. And I know that wasn't the only injury that they had last year, but I mean that didn't help them. And they've been able to stay pretty healthy overall. So if they can win Friday, that'll be a huge achievement for their program. Some other games we want to make sure to hit on. I believe this is the game you're going to be attending Friday night. Gahanna at Pickerington North. Earlier in the year, obviously, we know what a tough start Gahanna got off to. Got a chance to finish 4-6, and they're kind of showing that they weren't as bad as that record because they played such a murderous schedule. Now they've got a chance to maybe have a say in how Region 3 turns out, playing a Pickerington North team that is currently 6th in the region.
Maybe these numbers will kind of jump out to people a little bit. They did to me. Of the teams that Pickerington North has played this year, the combined record of those teams is 51-29. The combined record of the teams that Gahanna's played this year, 52-28. So even tougher. I mean, Pickerington North is 5-4, but they've played a really tough schedule, as we've seen by I believe they're 6th in the region. Yeah, 6th in Region 3. Gahanna just didn't. If they could have just gotten a win over like a New Albany or a Westerville Central, because they really just at the time they were not going to beat Dublin Kaufman, they were not going to beat Cincinnati Elmer. I mean, they just weren't going to beat those teams this year, and they weren't going to beat Pickerington Central. But I mean, we could have been talking about them as being like on the playoff bubble if they just were able to get one more win this year. So
we'll see what happens there. Obviously, you'll have that report on Friday night. And forgot to mention as well, Kaufman and UA, we will have that covered. Steve Blackledge from the Dispatch will be there. Thomas Worthington at Olentangy Berlin. Berlin is 9th in their region right now, which is the region that Olentangy is in. Region 7 here. They're only half a point behind Piqua. Piqua has a big rivalry game out in Miami County when they play Troy. Thomas Worthington has no shortage of motivation either. They can keep Berlin out of the playoffs, and they can finish 500 for the first time in a decade.
Honestly, I think this is kind of a fascinating matchup because of the way that Thomas Worthington has been playing lately. They were, excuse me, they kind of spoiled maybe some hopes that Scioto has of making the playoffs last week because of excuse me again, their kicker. I wanted to throw this out there. Their kicker, Owen Graham, kicked a game-tying field goal in regulation. In overtime, in the first overtime, he made a field goal to extend the game. And then he kicked the game-winning field goal in the second overtime.
Could he consider kicking for the Chicago Bears at some point? I kind of like that. Talk to him. Yeah, and that is kind of fascinating. I mean, was it 32-29 or
30
something?
to 27.
30-27.
Yeah.
They
and
beat
Sharon
Scioto.
Phipps had a great game too for Thomas Worth.
Yes, absolutely. We've heard that name quite a bit.
Jarrod Phipps.
Yes. Talking to about the Cardinals this year. Another OCC Cardinal game is Darby, which is 9th in Region 3. As we mentioned earlier, they're less than a point behind UA in 9th place in the region. They take on the Scioto team that we just mentioned. They're 11th in Region 7, this region here. That's another one. That's ended the season. I think they've played in Week 10 each of the past 3 years. Now it'll become 4. So it's a must-win clearly for both of these teams.
Yeah, Scioto's had a couple of heartbreakers in a row actually. While Darby is, it seems like they're playing better. They've won their last couple, so I don't know. I don't really have a good feel for who's going to win this one at all.
I'm not sure I do either. I mean, it kind of fascinates me on both ends, and clearly, I mean, that's like you talked about. Thomas and Berlin is an intriguing game. This one certainly is in a different way as well. Another Olentangy school, Olentangy Orange, 8-1. They're going for the outright OCC Buckeye title. If they win this week, they'll finish off a 5-0 schedule in the league. They are 3rd in this Region 3. Westerville South is 3rd in Region 7. As we mentioned, I don't know that we mentioned it on camera. I think we did. That Olentangy and Westerville South conceivably could play each other next week.
Yeah.
This game is going to go a long way in determining that. But right now, this is two teams that are both kind of going for playoff positioning at this point.
You've got the Michael Mansoray of Westerville South is going to face one of the toughest defenses he's faced all year. So how will they respond to that? Orange's defense is just really impressive. I mean, I'm super impressed with the way they played last week against Olentangy Liberty. And
were they not outgained by about 95 yards? Yeah. I think it was. I mean, but they forced 3 turnovers.
That's right.
And there's, people talk about, the game is simple, and that is one of those things that immediately stood out in the box score Friday night. Was following your updates. I'm not sure I thought it'd be 10-7.
No.
But it's just one of those things where the defenses kind of took over.
They did. And I believe Orange is going for its 4th straight playoff berth, I believe. So.
Yeah, they would be. Now, remember, a couple years ago, they were, say, 1-9, 0-10, like going back to around the 2013-14 era. But what Coach Schroeder has been able to do there, obviously, is very impressive. I mean, you've got, I guess, all 4 teams in this district here could make the playoffs. And how neat would that be? What a feather in the cap that would be for Olentangy schools if all of them were able to get in, and that's very plausible at this point. We do want to mention some more games before we get out of here. You mentioned Lancaster and Reynolds. We're going to be playing. Grandview is at Reedy. Centennial coming off a big-time win over Northland, and not just big in terms of magnitude, big in terms of score. It was 33-7. They take on Whetstone. They're trying to finish off an undefeated City North championship.
That's right. We got Marion Franklin at South. Marion Franklin's battling for a Division IV Region 15 playoff berth. Columbus Academy is at Bexley. Academy is in the hunt in Division V Region 19. Canal Winchester, 8-1 at Big Walnut, 4-5. And I know the Indians very well. I'm sure they're probably pretty pumped about this.
They are, and they should be in the playoffs. It's most likely at this point they're going to go on the road to somewhere in Southwest Ohio into the Cincinnati area. Watterson is at St. Charles. That's the other CCL game this week. Independence at Walnut Ridge. Walnut Ridge trying to finish off a 10-0 season, and they're in that Region 8 as well, right next to Canal and DeSales at this point. Worthington Christian, one of your teams, finished off an outright MSL Cardinal Championship last week. They've got a non-league game in Week 10, kind of odd, but they take on Kip Columbus.
Well, with Harvest Prep moving to the other division of the MSL, they only have 5 league games. So, actually only 4 league games. So they're playing in Kip Columbus, which is in its first year in the OHSAA. So I mean, this is more about Worthington Christian just improving its positioning a little bit, and as long as a couple things don't go completely haywire, I think they've got a real good chance of making it.
All right, and the other game to mention as well, Marysville, which is on the cusp in Region 2 in Division 1. They host Central Crossing. They've got to become Toledo Central Catholic fans. Central Catholic is the #1 ranked team in the state in Division 2, and they're playing Findlay. Findlay is the 8th team. Findlay beat Marysville earlier this year. So it's kind of that, it's that tangled web, and we're finally going to unclear this. Any other words on any of those other games we mentioned before we get out of here?
Well, one thing that I love about Week 10 is that teams like a Gahanna and a Central Crossing and Thomas Worthington, they can be spoilers. They've got something to play for because they, even though their season's going to be over at the end of this week, I mean, this is big for them too.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, it's one of the fun things. Well, we will be back with you next Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about the first round of the playoffs. We'll get all the matchups figured out. Sunday is when it officially comes out. Realistically, we're probably going to be knowing some things before then, but we will let you know as far as where we'll be heading next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. For Jarrod, Ulrey, and for Olentangy coach Mark Solis, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.